10 years ending in a sock to the gut for Sullivan's Island residents hoping to preserve the maritime forest. Joining us is Dan Crossy, a concerned citizen and organization member of Stop the Chop. He's also a Sullivan's Island resident. And Dan, you said that once town council came to this vote back on October 2nd, that you had one half popping champagne and the rest of you feeling like you had just come from a funeral. Can you explain to us what is the deal with the maritime forest and why was it subject for removal?
Sure, and I would just like to correct one little thing. It's really like 10% of the people were popping champagne. 90% of the island it felt like a funeral out there because we're losing literally. The bottom line, Leyla, is that we will see thousands of trees gone. People are beyond Sullivan's Island need to be aware of this, and that's why I'm so thankful for Fox 24's opportunity here to talk about this, because this is for anyone who loves the beach, just to understand that this decision made by 4 Sullivan's Island Town Council members is going to have an impact unlike any we've seen. And the biggest revelation of this is that those of us who count on that forest for protection from storm surge and hurricanes, it's being torn away from us. And it's going to make Sullivan's Island less resilient to Mother Nature. And it's just a shame what's going on.
Yeah, besides the humans who are affected by the removal of the vegetation, can you tell us a little bit more about the ecosystem and how that would have an impact by removing the vegetation?
Sure. So, cutting has been allowed there, and that's what hopefully people will understand, that there has been discussions for the past 3 decades, since 1991. So I guess 2 decades since the town began to manage this land, and it did allow cutting for views. And it really was a really well thought out by past town councils, and no one was ever quite happy with it, which is a sign of a good kind of, compromise, when both people who are fighting for a view and people who are, really preserving the ecosystem and the protection that we're seeing, both aren't happy. That means that it must be a good compromise. And to answer your question about the environmental impact, with these trees, we're seeing migratory birds. We're seeing all kinds of wildlife, butterflies, et cetera, that are there that have been well documented. All kinds of animals that live there that count on that as, a home, that are going to see these woodlands decimated. As the mayor put it, I think he said this is going to be legally sanctioned deforestation. It's going to be a huge impact on wildlife.
So this is something that I want to understand a little bit better, because what we're talking about, the maritime forest, is public land. But with the October 2nd vote by town council means that you're putting the power of cutting back this vegetation in the hands of private homeowners. Is that correct?
It is with some caveats. So before, what the homeowners were allowed to do is they have what's called a 100-foot transition zone, where they're allowed to cut what they want there with a few limitations. And for the most part, it was like, hey, here's 100 feet, have it. And that's it, because, trees might grow up right in front of your window or whatnot. And, if you can get those, that'll improve your views. But what this has done, and we have never seen this before ever in a compromise, is that it's allowing now cutting all the way to the sea, all the way to the ocean. So beyond just that 100-foot, yes, these homeowners, if their block comes together and raises the funds, they can cut whatever they want out there, with few exceptions. Pines, I'm sorry, not pines, but magnolias, palmettos, and some other, 4 types of trees.
Live oaks.
Yeah, other than that, everything can go.
So where's the balance of power, ownership over doing certain things to an environment that's enjoyed by more than just Sullivan's Island residents, but anybody who comes to visit Sullivan's Island?
Great question. And the answer to that is, in fairness, the town will oversee the cutting that the homeowners want. But what the mediation allows is massive cutting. So the town's going to have no leg to stand on when someone says, look, I want all this down. And the thing is, what I'm hearing from some of the beachfront owners who I know, they're saying, hey, calm down, calm down. We're going to go in with a very light touch. We're going to go in with a very light touch. And it comes down to that, okay, I really like you, but, I'm just concerned about maybe not you, but your neighbor. What if your neighbor wants to mow it all down, which again is going to be allowed, again, with the exception of those 4 types of trees.
Okay, well, we need to take a break here. They must have a good reason as to why they want to cut down this vegetation. We're going to find out that from Dan after the break, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We've been chatting with Dan Prossi. He's a concerned citizen with Stop the Chop organization. He's also a Sullivan's Island resident. We've been talking about the maritime forest that is now vulnerable to removal, essentially. Looks like it's been a fight for a long 10 years, went into mediation, and now town council earlier in October decided that it's okay for this public land to be put into the hands of private ownership in terms of what they do with this vegetation. Can you tell us why they think it's a good idea to do so?
Well, the primary reason is for views. They want better views of the ocean. In the lawsuit, that they did raise a few other issues, which I would consider, and many people consider, red herrings, and those are such as forest fire. They're saying, oh my gosh, our number one concern on the island is forest fires. And I can say, honestly, having lived there since 1992, I don't recall, and no one that I've ever met has ever recalled a forest fire on Sullivan's Island. It's a maritime forest. There's tons of water. It's almost like bogs in some area. They're concerned about wildlife. They're concerned about animals such as coyotes, which, as you know, are everywhere. They're in Mount Pleasant. They're downtown. And they've gone as far as to say they're concerned about mosquitoes. So these are issues that they brought up.
Mosquitoes are the state bird, so they're everywhere.
Well, this is true. And we're concerned about the wildlife that lives there. And also so many people, though, again, I get back to, are so concerned about protecting not only our lives if a storm hits, when the next storm hits, but protecting our property as well. And we feel that, again, there have been compromises in the past that have worked for both sides. And this one was challenged in court. The Honorable Judge Mikhail Scarborough held it up. He said, you know what? There is no right to views, that this protection is important. And while it was challenged on it appealed on a technicality to the state Supreme Court, that's where this mediation kicked in. And we just feel like it really wasn't a mediation, but a capitulation to the front beach owners, which again represent 9% of the people out there versus the rest of us.
Why 10 years ago did it become an issue?
Well, we are in a very fortunate situation on Sullivan's Island that our land, you'll hear the word accreted. And what that means is our island is growing outward, seaward. It's accreting. And part of the reason many people think is because of the jetties that are out there. It changed the tides when those were built. And it actually helped Sullivan's Island's land grow at the detriment, unfortunately, of Folly Beach. And that's why you see the erosion around the Folly Beach Lighthouse. So, we're fortunate. And what happened, though, Leyla, is trees started to grow there. It became a maritime forest that can take a century to grow. And because of that, people who, once maybe had a house that had one view now have a house that has different views. They do want it to look, in my opinion, many of them want it to look manicured like a Kiowa Island. There's nothing wrong with that, or other places that are just very manicured. But what they're doing is they're, in a way, messing with nature in ways that we are not going to know the impact in the future. And I do want to say that I held no ill feelings towards the people who, the front beachers who made this happen, because you know what, they were acting in their interests and they did a good job politically and whatnot to make this happen. Our concern, though, is with leadership. People are supposed to look at the whole and say, hey, is this really in the best interest? And those 4 councilmen really let a lot of people down with this decision. Right,
but do they, in what way are they either related to this issue as benefactors, or are they seeing it on behalf of the people they represent or on behalf of themselves, do you think?
I will leave that up to them. to answer, but I would, if you get a chance to interview them, ask them where they live, ask two of them if they own beachfront homes, which they do, ask one of them if he's a realtor, which he is, and let them say, look, do they feel they got any benefit from this? I think it's for them to answer, and also say the state ethics commission to answer. But I just want to encourage everyone that even if you don't live on the island, this is your beach. This is, your land. This is public land. And people, as you said earlier, private individuals should not have this much power over what this land is going to eventually look like.
Well, tell us where people can find out more information. Stop the Chop, it's a relatively new organization, but you are organizing, so to speak. So where should they find out more information if they want to get involved?
You can email us, savesiforest@gmail.com. But the biggest thing you guys can do is you can email the Army Corps of Engineer or DHEC. And when you do email them, let them know that you do not want permits approved that will allow cutting in the maritime forest and the accreted land. They're being flooded with people who already responded, and we're so thankful for that. And we hope that more people will email those regulatory agencies.
Dan, I want to thank you so much for your time.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
We're back in 2 minutes.